Hello everyone, and welcome to another entry in our Community Cast series. In this match, we're going to have a showdown between the Vampire Coast, who shall be led by King of the Dead, and the High Elves, who are going to be led by Reginald Puggington. So without further ado, let's jump right into this match and have some fun. So for the forces of the Vampire Coast, it looks like they have a whole bunch of scurvy dogs. So there's going to be two doggos here in the front line, and it looks like in the back corners there's going to be some dogs here and dogs here, which I think are absolutely a staple in this matchup. Oftentimes the High Elves are just going to spam archers, shadow warriors, and sometimes if they're feeling a little bit spicy, you might see some Sisters of Avalorn. So having all of the dogs to just harass and cause pressure and slow the High Elf advance and allow your mortars to do more work is really just incredibly valuable. So 4 doggos in total. On top of that, in the front line, it's just going to be deckhand mobs. And I've actually been seeing this from King of the Dead quite a bit. He's been playing a ton of Vampire Coast and using bombers like crazy. So I'm quite eager to see how they do in this replay. I know we got to see them a couple replays back and they did okay, but I mean, theoretically, in the High Elf matchup, they should be pretty good, right? They have pretty high damage against lightly armored targets, and I believe they do have the kind of explosive nature of attack, so it's not going to be like a normal missile attack or a bow or a handgun. It's going to have like a little bit of AoE damage, so yeah, let's see how they do against these spears or if they survive the onslaught of the archers and shadow warriors. On top of that, he's got some Morngulls here in the back. Morngulls are a bit of a interesting pick here because they're very vulnerable against archers and against spearmen and a lot of the typical High Elf units, but if it is something you kind of hold until the late game and bring them in, they do cause terror, and they have a bonus for his infantry, so we'll see how he makes them work. He's got 2 mortars in the back, pretty much a staple against High Elves, really good against archers, one of the few answers you do have. He's got 2 groups of the zombie-powered deckhand mobs with polearms, a big giant enemy crab here, so the Rotting Leviathan is, I like this. It's kind of a cool X-Factor pick, because this bad boy does have 150 armor, so against archers and shadow warriors, which are very common, it's going to be tough to kill this guy. So yeah, he's going to be doing some work. Granted, there is some ballista action in the back. Count Noctiluss on foot, anti-large, armor piercing, and very, very tough to kill. So for the forces of Reginald Puggington, pretty traditional stuff. I mean, there's a bunch of different variants you see High Elves go with, but this looks pretty strong. He's got Shadow Warriors, which are quite powerful in melee. And what's cool about them against Vampire Coast is they can actually beat down the scurvy dogs in melee, so even if they do get caught and compromised, they're going to be pretty strong. 4 groups of spearmen. In the back, he does have a bunch of standard archers, and it doesn't look like there's too much backline protection here. This is my one kind of concern for his army in general, is there's a ton of scurvy dogs coming in, and what I really love to use against Vampire Coast is like get 3 Reavers, just the cheapest ones, and use them in your backline to defend. And when you realize there's no dogs, you then go harass the backline. But yes, nonetheless, it's a good army. He does have a Reaper Bolt Thrower, and he does have the crazy pigeon lady up in the skies, who's going to be dropping some bird droppings here in just a moment. So guys, without further ado, let's do it. Let's have some fun. So the dogs are going to be pushing in. Looks like they're going to be trying to just kind of weave through the eye of the storm right here. Going to be going after the Shadow Warriors, but Spearmen are collapsing, and it looks like they're going to be changing targets into the back, going after the archers. And yeah, there's just a ton of disruption and harassment coming in from King of the Dead. So they do get on the archers right here, and that's going to be some good damage, but really they're crumbling, and there are some silver helms nearby, but this is going to be the best thing about the harass so far. The scurvy dogs are going to be charging onto the Eagle Claw Bolt Thrower, or the Eagle Claw Bolt Thrower. It's not like there's multiple of them, but the Bolt Thrower here is going to be going down relatively quick. It looks like he is able to detach that, so very good play here from Reginald Puggington. But the harass is certainly on, and the entire time that the harass is going down, the mortars are going to be generating value. Things are a little bit blobbed up, and it's going pretty well. Granted, it's not the cheapest investment. Scurvy dogs do cost about 500 gold, so if all 4 of them die, it's going to be almost 2,000 gold worth of resources for the damage that you see at hand. So that mortar, man, doing some huge damage against the archers. The Bolt Thrower crew was taking some damage, and yeah, he actually did a really good job of retreating there. So beautiful play there by Puggington. In the meantime, these scurvy dogs are going to be falling back. So I would say that Puggington, especially considering that he didn't have a ton of backline, protection, did a really good job taking out those scurvy dogs and fending off that initial harass. So Noctiluss, in the meantime, is going to be using the Roth's Moonjaw right here and a natural summon to get some pressure here onto the Shadow Warriors. And that's good regardless, even if they're not going to do much against the Shadow Warriors. It halts the advance, it allows the mortars to do a little bit more damage, and that's really kind of the name of the game in my opinion. So the Silverhelms are going to be charging in. They do have shields. I don't think that's going to help them too much against the bombers here. So the Silverhelms getting a little bit of a charge against the deckhand mobs. And they have, they lost 10 models, but really, I mean, definitely, it's just a bit of a wash for both players, really. The bombs didn't do too much damage, and they do have relatively low ammunition, if memory serves, but maybe they were buffed, because it seems like it didn't use much at all. Granted, maybe it only threw like a couple bombs or something. So the archers are going to be shooting in, going after Count Noctiluss, but he's very happy to take those shots. So you can see here that King of the Dead is going to be using his side zigzag micro there to kind of avoid some of that fire, and it looks like the Morngulls are going to be charging in against the Cav. Now, they aren't going to do good. I mean, they have really good armor piercing, just really high weapon damage overall. And the Silverhelms are going to be taking a pretty substantial beating. The Rotting Leviathan's going to be scooting forward as well. And the backline of the High Elves, even though they fended off that harass really well, is actually looking really tattered. The Mortars have done a really good job against all these Archers and Shadow Warriors, and the Summon of the Ross Moondial was able to muck up some Silver Helms. So very, very good play there. But the Ballista in the back is back online, and yeah, there's not going to be any harass on this Eagle Claw Bolt Thrower. So the entire game, it should definitely be shooting at the Rotting Leviathan, if not the Morngulls. So the Morngulls have fallen back, which is a good play, kind of keeping it out of range of the Archers, although it looks like some of the Archers were able to scoot up and get some value. And the Bombers are throwing in against the Spearmen and doing pretty good, and that is one of the cool things about the Bombers here is that they're pretty efficient against units that are in combat, whereas like guns can't really shoot that efficiently at troops that are fighting. So they can like fire over their infantry and actually get some value, and it looks like they're able to actually break those Spearmen, which is something you wouldn't see terribly often. Normally the spears would hold for a long time. So perhaps that's kind of the niche that King of the Dead has found with the zombie pirate gunnery mobs. So they're going to be advancing upward, the deckhand mobs advancing as well, and the big giant enemy crab is going to be fighting against Alariel and some of the spearmen. It is taking some damage, but yeah, the bolt thrower in the back is really paying its dues. You can see that's one of the main things, just shooting and focusing here on this Rotting Leviathan and really doing a good job. Morngulls in the back are being kept in reserves, maybe just to kind of counter these Silver Helms, and yeah, 38 melee attack against the 34 melee defense should be a pretty good trade here for the Morngulls. And they are going to be surging into the front line right here, and hopefully they'll be able to kind of do some work for their sake. Now the High Elf Archers in the meantime shooting in and just peppering these Morngulls, so the commitment from King of the Dead here is going to be pretty strong, and I think the reason he did engage them maybe was to kind of catch them in an invocation of Nehek that you guys just saw taper off there, but it looks like the Morngulls might have missed the party. Now they're going to be fighting spears and taking archer fire, but what's really good here for the Vampire Coast is the fact that all of these deckhand mobs, the Tides of Skuld, and all of these different summons are going to be pushing back here, going after the archers, going after the Shadow Warriors, and that's really going to kind of, shut down the damage output of the High Elf Force, and it's going to buy more time for the Mortars. So the Mortars are still relatively online. I think one of them was. Oh no, it looks like the High Elves were able to get back there with Silverhelm, so I did miss that. So very well played of Puggington, getting back here and taking out these Mortars, and that's something that if you can juke out the Zombie Pirate deckhand mobs, and somebody just moves a little bit away from the Mortar, you can easily just kind of drift around them and then re-engage and get that good value. So good micro there. And some of the High Elf Spearmen have endured in the front line, and they're doing a pretty good job just getting in the back. And it looks like the Mortars are going to be offline, so that's going to take so much pressure off this High Elf force, which it looks like they're now pulling pretty far ahead in the Bounce of Power. Reginald Puggington has all of his archers back online, but the big Crabbo's going, and he's nowhere near his healing cap. So if Noctils can kind of just endure, get those summons, keep the Crab alive somehow with invocations of Nehek, he might be able to just grind out this High Elf force. It's going to be tough to say. Now, Shadow Warriors are running out of ammunition, but they're just pouring it onto the Crab, and it looks like we might get the Pigeon Queen getting in there to fight herself. The Morngulls are still going somehow. I don't know how. Even with all that archer fire and the spears kind of poking them, they're still fighting, but a very good Roth's Moondial coming down here from King. He's able to get that right on top of the bolt throwers, and it's probably going to be able to finish off that crew. But here we have a very even game. Balance of Power just kind of ebbing slowly in the favor of the red player here, but man, it is a close fight. Now, in the back, the Silver Helms have pretty much done their job. They've knocked the mortar crews pretty much off kilter here. I'm pretty sure they killed the other one outright. And this one here is going to be crumbling in a matter of seconds. I don't think it even has enough crew to really be functional anymore. But there are some, healthy zombie pirate deckhand mobs with polearms here who are going to be surging forward. Definitely could get closer and start to do some work. Archers on the flanks are, fighting deckhand mobs. So it's just a very close, messy fight. And again, if this Crabbo can survive, that's going to be really tough. Archers falling back. We have 4 shots on this one. But yeah, that summon back there doing a really good job. But Puggington does a solid work pulling off the Eagle Hall Bolt Thrower. So for any of you guys who are newer to the game, if you have an artillery crew, there is a command on the bottom bar which allows you to have them drop the pieces or the weapons themselves, and they can run. So for example, if you're going to be compromised and just kind of swarmed, you can get the crew and run. Therefore, the crew is, you're not going to be like dragging the artillery. You can run away faster, and it's definitely pretty efficient. So Alariel is going to be diving in here, helping out with these summon zombie pirate deckhand mobs. The giant enemy crab still going, invocations of Nehek just going off nice and juicy like, but he is kind of approaching his healing cap. But yeah, he still has a couple thousand HP he could heal, so that's going to be very strong. Now, it looks like the Vampire Coast is somehow kind of creeping its way back into the Bounce of Power here. The zombie pirate gunnery mobs with bombs are actually working down the spearmen, and I really hope these guys make it to the archers. I want to see how much damage they do. But it looks like these spearmen might be breaking. They're at negative leadership. They're 0, -3. Oh, they're just on the tip of it right here. They have 25 models left. But yeah, it looks like there's a lot of high elves, but the Vampire Coast does have Noctils who's healthy, and this Crab with its 150 armor doing so much work. I mean, one Sister of Averlorn, or had that bolt thrower been able to maybe shoot a little bit longer, would have killed it for sure, but it looks like now it's like chasing these guys in conjunction with the Tide of Skuld and some of the other backline tools, and you can see it's forcing the hand of the Pigeon Queen. She's having to get in there. So the bombs, let's go ahead and watch here. So the bombs are going to be throwing against these archers, pretty much full health. But it looks like they're kind of like taking a bit of a staggered approach. Maybe it's because the archers are like running out of their range, but yeah, it's a little bit unfortunate. But they still have pretty good ammunition. I mean, 16 kills, not too great. I mean, I still think the pistol variant is just explicitly better. But again, we did see some value from the gunnery mob bombs in the front line against the spearmen who were fighting. The other bombs coming in here, melting some of these shadow warriors, but they're in a little bit of a looser formation compared to regular archers, so it's not going to be quite as good and tasty. But the giant enemy crab is about to fall, but not without a price. He was actually able to almost finish off the radiant one up here. So the pigeon queen is going to be running with 56 HP, and suddenly the bounce of power is in the favor of the vampire coast. So King of the Dead somehow, oh, that actually did really good damage from those bombs right there. It was able to splash up on those tightly packed spearmen. So I think that's one of the big variables. If you're fighting against tightly packed formations with light armor, I think that they can do some pretty good damage. But against like things like shadow warriors, or of course anything with armor, it seems like they're going to be very inefficient. So the Vampire Coast has taken the lead in regards to the bounce of power. And obviously something else that I think is affecting it is the fact that the ammunition is running very low on the Vampire Coast, or on the High Elves. And ammunition actually does play into the bounce of power up here. So if you have very low ammunition, your units are going to have significantly less power level. Therefore, it's going to affect the bounce of power. So Noctilus and company, I mean, there's a bunch of halberds and a bunch of bomb units kind of coming back in here. The Shadow Warriors and others are going to be moving in. But man, Noctilus is going to be tough to kill, especially if he has any more summons, which I have a feeling he does. That's probably going to be his last summon here. He does summon some zombie pirate gunnery mobs, which can shoot and move incredibly good at getting into the back line and just doming some of these archers who are going to be shattered due to army losses. So very well played to both players. I mean, they both had kind of points in the game that were just incredible play, just good micro, but at the end, Count Noctilus was able to endure. By keeping up that giant enemy crab, he was able to get in there and just stay alive and really absorb a ton of the ammunition. I mean, Puggington had to use so much ammo from the archers and shadow warriors to bring down the crab, which then kind of opened up the game for the archers, opened up the play for King of the Dead to move forward his other troops without having to worry about heavy archer overwatch fire. So very well played to King of the Dead as well as Reginald Puggington. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this Vampire Coast vs. High Elf game, and we will see you guys next time. Thanks again for watching, and take care.